Another technique we use is called time box management, which is used for defining and applying software deliverables within a relatively short and fixed period of time. Now, there should be a balance between the software quality and delivery requirements within a time box. What that means, if you think about it, one way to look at it, and it's a technique that you can use in prototyping as well, is that sometimes we're in a rush to get to market. So we have a definite timeline. And in that timeline, we kind of have to balance the quality of the work that we're doing along with the delivery, which means maybe some extra features or qualities might not be included because of the time constraints. Now, the time box management is designed to help you prevent project cost overruns and excessive delays, but again, there's a trade-off to that technique. General project management, what we call the GPM, uses automated techniques to be able to handle the proposals and cost estimations. We can use it to be able to monitor, to predict, and report on performances with recommended actions. These techniques are often called the decision support systems. Controlling activities of a project would include things like the management of the scope, of the resource usage, right? Resources are people and machines and all those things, and the risk that we're going to be inherently seeing within the project. It is important that new requirements are documented, and if they are approved, they should have the appropriate resources allowed. As we look at the management of the scope of a project, it does require documentation, and it should be in the form of a product breakdown. Now, the document is going to be a part of the project plan, and it should show the breakdown of all of the different components. The scope of a project can be subject to change, and if it does, that's going to certainly impact the original deadlines and potentially the original budget. And because of that, that means that you should have incorporated within the project a means of change management. And it should be anticipated, right? Because projects can change over time, or can change as we discover new needs or problems that might arise. The resource usage is how the budget is being spent. It's very important that you track it to make sure that it is in line with the budget plan. The resource usage should be measured and reported. And not just how much was spent should be reported, but as well as how productive we have been with those resources. We can conduct what's called an EVA, the Earned Value Analysis, and it's a way of comparing your project metrics and looking at them at regular intervals. Now, the metric that you're comparing and looking at could be the budget to date, or the actual spending to date, or some other estimations. But again, our goal is to try to stay within line of the budget of this project. Now, as I said, there are inherent risks when we're working with projects. One is the risk that it could impact the business benefits. In other words, the project sponsor is responsible really for trying to mitigate that risk. There could also be risks that that there could be something that impacts the project itself. At that point, the project manager is the one that is responsible for that risk mitigation. And again, that can come into the issue of changes, like I said, of delays that we didn't anticipate. There are things that are going to impact the process of this project. Now, there are some things you should do at the end of each milestone within the project, which would be risk assessments. Now, what should you look at? What kind of risk assessments? Well, risks within inventory. Remember that when you assess risks, it's a way of quantifying how likely a risk may occur. And so we need to make sure that when we detect those, especially at the end of each milestone, that we do our best to find a way to mitigate those risks. And they should be outlined in a risk management plan. We should have a way of discovering what those risks are and a method of reviewing and evaluating the effectiveness and the cost of risk management. At some point, projects should end, unless you're a contractor and you want to keep getting more and more revenue. Okay, that was a joke. All right, projects have a finite life, and all the projects have to be closed at some point. And at the end of the project sponsor should determine if it is acceptable and ready for delivery. One of the suggestions is that there's a formal process you use to review to be able to help learn from the work that was done on prior projects as well. I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? We finished the project, we want to review it, and we can use that on potentially new projects as well, right? So we learn from the old projects, we can use that information to help us in planning the new ones.